Welcome to Adoption Now, telling your adoption story. Guess who it is? April Fallon. Noah is going to join us today, and it's going to be awesome. We are the adoptive parents of 4 children. They're amazing. We love this show. We love talking about them. We love talking to you. If you're new to Adoption Now, we are a nonprofit sharing stories from the perspective of the adoptee, birth parents, and adoptive families. Hey, thank you so much for your donations. That's how we literally survive. If you want to get involved, we would love for you to join the Adoption Now Patreon page. We're having so much fun. There's all this new content. We are answering questions. We have coaching tips. So go to adoptionnowpodcast.com. And if you're listening to audio only, no, check us out on YouTube. You can actually see our faces. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Today, we are in studio with Nick and Shannon. I can't believe it. We've been waiting for so long and we're super excited. This couple grew up in Texas and they met at Texas A&M. They got married and they struggled to grow a family, as so many of us have that story, and come on and share about what it's like to go through infertility, what it's like to go through several miscarriages. This couple really struggled and they ended up in an RV. Yeah, that's right. You have to hear this story.
At the end of the day, I choose you.
Shannon and Nick, welcome to the show.
Hi, guys. We're so happy to be here.
I can't believe this is happening.
I know.
It's been a long time waiting.
Yeah, long time.
All right. You guys applied to be on the show because you found us how? How did you even know about Adoption Now?
Yeah. So I started listening to Adoption Now when we were like in the thick of our adoption journey. I've always loved learning other people's stories and perspectives, and it just like helps me feel not so alone in what we were journeying through. And so it was a great way for me to dive into all the different avenues that we could pursue adoption, just learn what's out there. And I also shared it with like people that were closest to me. My mom's a huge listener now.
Oh,
she was always telling people to listen to the show. So I just feel like it was a really great educational tool for me. And it was just what I would like put on when I needed to go on a walk and clear my head and get out of myself. It was like a way to help me see others on this journey as well. And hear the success stories, or just whatever the story is, right?
Right.
Like the reality of it.
Yeah.
It helped it make it all feel more like approachable and doable.
How did you find it?
I think it was just like,
Google.
yeah, or like podcast search on,
Spotify.
yeah,
Whatever.
something like that.
I'm finishing your
Yes.
sentences.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Did you listen?
Not as much.
Hey, no.
I know.
I can't believe this.
She would share
At
the
least
big ones
fake
with
it.
me.
Yeah.
I'm not a big podcaster.
Yeah.
But she would share the stories and we would frequently connect on what she learned and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just back up. You guys met in college and you fell in love. You're at Texas A&M. Let's just go from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
We actually didn't fall in love in college.
Oh, okay.
But we knew of each other. Had
Are
some
you guys in
mutual
love
friends.
now?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
She was 2 years younger than me, so I just saw her as the cute out of my league freshman when I was, a junior? Yeah. So just had a lot of mutual friends, and my professional journey took me across the world. My first 2 years out of school, ended up back in Houston the same year she graduated college, and just moved back to Houston. So we reconnected at a birthday party of a friend, and just kind of hit it off and fell in love pretty quick, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we actually started talking about adoption when we were dating. It was
Okay.
something that came up. I mean, it was like a stretch goal or something that was like, who knows if this is going to happen? But like we very much were aligned that like we thought adoption like sounded like a really cool way to experience growing our family. To be honest, I don't think that we imagined that being our first step of growing a family, but we were very much aligned that like we had seen people or families around us do adoption well, or like make it feel like, whoa, that is an incredible way to grow a family. And so we were very open to it.
Okay, so how long after you're married do you decide you're going to grow your family?
Pretty quickly.
Yeah. I'd say
Yeah.
within the first year, close to a year, we decided we were ready and wanted to
Yeah.
start trying. So
Yeah. And then from there, we kind of quickly realized that we were going to be up against some things. I have endometriosis and PCOS. And so we quickly identified those things and started just like diving headfirst into all the infertility treatments. Well, we didn't go like, we were kind of
Crazy.
doing a more like naturopathic approach
Okay.
to it all. But Yeah, and so I had some fertility surgeries, and we suffered 2 losses. So we were in the thick of it.
Yeah.
And
How did you feel as a woman?
oh, it was so hard because so much of my identity was wrapped up in this dream of becoming a mom, and it just felt like it was getting further and further away from happening. And when that is coming so easily to the people that you love most or the people that are around you, it just feels kind of isolating. But we very quickly started talking to our family about that we would be more likely to pursue adoption versus the very assisted approaches like IVF or IUI. We just felt like we would shift our gear towards adoption first, which I think was really great because it gave our families a lot of time to just wrap their minds around it themselves. And it was kind of on the table from the beginning. And so we suffered our losses during the beginning of COVID or right before.
So what year? 2018,
2020?
Well, I know when COVID was, but
so I think our losses were 2019 and early 2020, and we were sitting at home in a townhouse in Houston, and I was going crazy. I was like, I just can't sit here in this funk
sadness
and we were working remotely and all the things, as everyone in the world was. And so that's really when Nick's dream had always been to have a pop-up camper. We would see them driving down the highway, and he'd be like, oh, one day, Shannon, we're going to do that. And I just looked at him like he was absolutely crazy. I was like, my family didn't grow up camping. I am not a camping girl. That is not me. I shot that down so fast. And then here we are in the middle of COVID, and I'm in a place where I just got to get out of this townhouse.
Get a camper.
And so Nick, I don't know how we came up with the idea, but it all happened really fast. You want to take it from here?
Do you think you were really sad? She talked about how she was sad, she's grieving, and I want you to tell the hiking story. But did you feel that way as well? Let's talk about the husband's perspective.
Yeah, I think looking back, I was still very much more hopeful maybe than she was at the time. And I think that's just the difference in being the man and the woman, and the responsibility she felt and the burden she felt of not maybe just feeling like the problem and that there was something wrong with her. But I feel like I did remain pretty optimistic and hopeful that, you're young, we're young, there's still time for this. We will have a family. We don't know what that will look like, but it will come our way at some point. Certainly, I think this is what's the beauty of marriage is there was days where I was more down and she would find the strength to be up that day, and vice versa. When she was down, I think that was just kind of my job and felt like that was my responsibility as a husband to lift her up and
I
not
feel like
make
God
her
has
feel
really
worse.
blessed us in that way of helping us, giving each other space to go through what we need to go through, but the other one being able to come in and really support in a beautiful way.
And we just process things very differently. She wants to talk or just sit with it or, whatever that may be. And I want to be active, go for a run, go work out, and just, kind of just not put it away, but in a sense, just not have it be front of mind all the time and just deal with it when it's there, but not dwell on it all the time.
I think that's why opposites attract, though, right? Because when you think about it, if you had the same personalities, oh my gosh, there would be times where you're so down that it's pretty cool how God brings you together.
Yeah. And we are like that too. We'll have one feeling of sadness, and the other one will be it's fine, it's fine. Yeah. And we're so grateful for that, because if we were both rolling around crying on the floor, that's not good.
Yeah, so, roll around crying on the floor.
You do. In those days, I really come through for you.
You really do.
Get up.
Truth
it's
comes
gonna
out.
happen. Yeah.
I legit had one of those moments after one of our losses. I had a low key temper tantrum like a 2-year-old. But
I think it's disappointing, and it's also your body.
Yeah.
Your body is going through this change. You're feeling it physically. But tell us about the hiking story.
Well, that actually doesn't come until later. In between our adoption stuff. It's okay.
Okay, so you're going to buy a camper. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
So this was when I really fell in love with Shannon, because I am the wild idea guy, and Shannon learned very early on, just let the ideas run their course. He'll be on to a new one in a month.
Yes.
And whether it's a business idea, an adventure idea, whatever. And she got very good at just letting me talk and dream and just move on to the next one. But this one, somehow I was like, we're doing this. We're going to buy a camper. COVID has shut down the world. Everyone's working remotely. We don't know when we're going back to the office. So we ran the numbers. Should we just rent one and go try this for a few months or dive in and buy one? Yeah. And somehow she really got on board. And I think it was just kind of the depth of like our desperation for something new and something outside of what we were experiencing.
Yeah.
And so within, I would say like a month,
Yeah.
we bought a 25-foot travel trailer bumper pull.
Okay, that is
And-
not like a camper. I was thinking like a pop out.
No, so she had requirements.
Yeah,
It
she was like, okay, we're going to do this.
I need heating and air conditioning.
Yeah.
It needs a bathroom and a shower
Yeah.
and running water. So I was like, okay, this is not
And
exactly
my deal
camping,
was
but-
I was going to try it for 1 month, and if I hated it, we would come home and sell it.
Okay,
So,
so
like,
you're going
I
to keep
had
your
an out.
house.
Oh, yes.
Yes, we
too.
kept the house.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So it was basically, we didn't like sell all of our belongings and leave everything behind.
Right.
But we basically packed enough for a month. And we were like, we're
Were
going to
you
just
so happy?
go out. I was so happy. We packed up on this
Yeah.
adventure. And honestly, we like only booked places for like a week at a time. So it was kind of just like we would stay somewhere for 7 days, look where we were going to go next and move on to the next one. And yeah, I would say even like 2 or 3 weeks in, she was like, I can do this.
Really?
I'm
Oh,
enjoying
yeah.
this.
It was
You
so,
guys were working still,
So
though.
we were working
Yeah.
remotely, and
Okay.
like we were working from a teeny tiny dinette where basically
than this
our
table.
knees were touching, and we're like having to coordinate our work calls so that we're not both on the
On
phone
this-
at the exact same time, or someone's going to go take it from the picnic table outside or from the car.
Yeah.
But it was just so fun to be able to shut our laptops at the end of the day and go play in the mountains or get outside in nature, and it just was a really wonderful way for us to like reconnect with each other and just realize that yes, this huge thing that we're going through feels tremendously heavy, but there is still so much beauty, and like God is still so
Yeah.
good and like showing up for us in so many other incredible ways during this season, and it just was so like healing for us. And during that time, we really like had paused infertility treatments, or you know. I was taking a million supplements and on a crazy diet and all the things. And we were just like, let's just reset, use this time. Oh my gosh, we went to the coolest places. We did so many national parks and hiking.
Don't talk about
Yeah.
it. I have a feeling he's going to be like, let's do this.
I mean, I think when it was all said and done, we counted it was like 20,000 miles of driving.
Wow.
We did
Whoa.
11 or 12 national parks. I mean,
Okay,
we
were your
stayed-
families like, are you guys okay?
I
everything
think my
okay?
family more so because they were like, you don't
This
even
is not
like
you.
camping. Like, who are you? But I think it just shows like how much we were craving to get outside of ourselves and try something new and
Yeah.
a
So it ended up-
positive distraction. Like,
ended up being 2-3 month trips. We came back home for like 2 or 3 months in between.
yeah.
So 6 months total, we were basically out on the road between 2020 and 2021.
Wow.
Yeah, all the way up to Montana, California, Idaho, Wyoming. We
We did it all.
just went
And it
everywhere.
worked.
Yeah.
So people who are listening to this and are like, should we do this? It
great
worked.
for your
There was
marriage.
something that healed your
Yeah.
soul.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was just really needed and necessary for us to get outside of ourselves and see all the beauty and good and I don't know.
And
what else to
even
say.
post that, it's been one of our favorite things to do together.
Yeah.
Like, I think what made it so neat is it was something we both came into together. Like, it wasn't my hobby before Shannon or
Yeah.
her hobby
Yeah.
before me, but we really came into that together, and we named the RV Patsy.
You still have Patsy?
We still have
do still
Patsy.
have Patsy?
So we still love to take out Patsy, and
Can't wait
we
to
do it
take-
less with the kids now.
Yeah.
I
but,
wish this was
yeah.
a camping show because we have so
Yeah,
many
sorry.
bad
Oh
stories.
my gosh.
Move on from this.
Our marriage did not grow closer when we bought an RV.
Well, I will say, when we were first married, we tried tent camping once, and that was the experience.
No, we had
did
an
not grow
RV.
closer.
Oh, we had
okay.
We've
yeah,
had
we had a
many.
shower and
We're
we just keep trying. And one time we were, this could be a camping show because we had people come over and they're like, do you want us to help you? And then that caused us to be more
one
mad
time. I feel
and-
like it's every time.
I know. Somebody's got it. We're bad. So, anyways, let's move on from that
sure.
because I don't know that would work for us. But the idea of being outside and, I remember some of the losses that we went through. We would go to the beach. We would just fly and just have to there's something that's so healing about nature that God really uses that to just rekindle your soul.
Yep.
And I'm just so glad that you guys were able to do that because one of the things that we always tell couples is, you have to heal from that grief in some way because what you're about to enter into when you go into adoption is also grief. And we don't want you to get sideswiped with just this overbearing amount of just grief and you haven't really dealt. And so you took that time. What was that? 2 years, you said? 2, 1-ish?
Well, we were out on the road for about 6 months, but I mean, from when we were probably 2.5 years into our journey of trying to start a family before we really switched gears towards adoption.
So let's talk about that
Yeah.
switch.
So at the end of the RV trip, we were driving back to Houston, and we said, after the adventures we had just had, we were just not really content living there anymore, to be honest. So that's kind of what drove us to Colorado.
Yeah.
So we on the way back to Houston, we were having a lot of conversations and started looking at job opportunities and stuff. And long story short, made that work. So we landed back in Houston, and within 2 months,
Wow.
we packed up and moved to Colorado. So that was a pretty quick turnaround. And
We're so glad you did.
yeah, so that was the end of 2021, basically November of 21. And as soon as we landed in Colorado, we basically said, we're ready to start this journey.
Yeah.
We think
Oh,
adoption is
I
the
would
next
not
path.
have told you to come to Colorado, though.
I know.
This is a hard
I
place.
know. And we moved in to my cousin's basement while we settled and tried to find a house. And we were shopping for a home, but the home market
But
was
you were
crazy.
like, we're
and-
used to little spaces.
Yes.
We'll be fine. It's
Yeah.
fine.
And that was a part of the impetus too, is we knew we were about to start the home study process, and we were getting into that. And so
Right.
we knew we didn't want to be in somebody else's house when that started, just because there was going to be a lot of complications with that and maybe dragging her into that process. So
Right.
we needed to find our own place to get that process started. So
Yeah.
Shannon was doing a lot of research on avenues and what route we were going to take, an agency, a consultant, or
Yeah, we met
all
with
the
a few
various things.
we met with a few agencies here, local Denver area, and I think we were really like shell shocked by the wait times that we were hearing,
Yeah.
and that was
And
really
the cost.
yeah, and we were really kind of discouraged when we started pursuing that route in Colorado, and this is like again, we're still kind of on the tail end of COVID, and I think that. Like that impacted wait times as well.
Right.
So hopefully things have, picked up or changed since then. And honestly, and then this is where I get frustrated with Google, but I think I had been Googling adoption consultants, and that's what it kept, like Google kept telling me that was
Oh,
like the
right.
way to go
Yeah.
because it had seen me Google that once probably. And we have a good circle within our Catholic community of friends that have adopted. They had all gone through the single agency route though. And so they signed on with one single agency and ended up having placements through that, mostly back in Texas. So we just kind of didn't have the right like resources around us here in Colorado at the time. And so Google was telling us to go the adoption consultant route. We called a couple, ended up signing on with one. Looking back, we feel like it was a little premature. They encouraged us, or like the way their contract was written was that we had to sign on with them and start our contract before they suggested which home study providers to use. And so we started like eating into our clock with them. And so that was really frustrating at the time because we had been told, I mean, it's a range of how long a home study can take. And we've kind of felt like ours ended up taking on the longer end of that. And
What is that?
It was about 4 months, I think, 4 or 5
Okay.
months.
Yeah.
It should be like 6 weeks is
Yeah.
what we were telling people.
Yeah.
Although the COVID thing did
Yeah,
mess some
COVID,
people.
and we were dealing with a lot of different state clearances because Nick had lived in California and Texas, and just all of that I feel like was still maybe backlogged from COVID. But that was a long process, and I feel like we were getting kind of antsy during it because we're like,
Were you paying them?
Oh,
I
already
see.
had.
So you had to pay them up
Yes.
front, and then the contract,
was 1
like,
year.
oh gosh,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
So they didn't give you money back if you had spent 4 months in your home study?
No.
Because
Would
the
they
way,
have matched you in that time?
No.
though?
No.
No.
So the
weren't
way,
seeing any
the
cases
way it
yet.
worked is
You
like
guys should have come to us.
I
know.
Too bad we didn't have the coaching then.
some guidance would have been very helpful
Yes.
there.
I like
But
that.
yeah, they had like their preferred agency that they worked with here locally that they wanted us to do our home study through and all of our training, but they wouldn't tell us who that agency was until we signed
Oh my
the
gosh,
contract.
Michael,
So
I know, I
I
was just
sweat
gonna
through
say,
this
I
one.
was-
Oh my
I
goodness.
got-
a little back.
And
I
another
was
thing too in
folding my
Colorado.
hands in that
Yes,
moment.
hold your hands. The thing about Colorado, people always say, "Oh, why do you say it's the hardest
Yeah.
state?" Because our laws are archaic in the time of termination and all these things. But the biggest thing that's frustrating is we're an agency state. We can't piecemeal anything together. So you can't hire a social worker to do your home study, and then you also maybe have an agency, and maybe you also have a lawyer. We can't do that. Agency state. And the amount of money it costs for a home study is crazy.
It's insane.
So we just had somebody from another state write this whole guide for us, and she's like, it's going to cost about $15,000 to $3,000. I'm like, oh no,
No.
it's 5 to 7
Yes.
here, and you don't get it.
Yes, it's crazy.
That's where you're like one of the only states where you don't get it handed to you. You bought it, and you don't. And it's all your personal information. They won't give it to you, and they're kind of like that. We can't tell you or what. It's like all this like secrecy. Why? Why can't we just be transparent? We paid for it. I don't know. I don't want to. Okay.
yeah,
Oh, you can get it. There's just
We couldn't get ours. You couldn't share with other It was the lawyers that had to ask them,
that
and
was
we didn't get
crazy.
handed. And then the lawyers were like, "Why won't they just like? Why can't we just get it from you?"
Because they put all the dirt in there. That's why.
No. But I mean, but
I know,
it's
you're
your
right.
dirt.
Yeah.
You should get your
I know,
information.
right? You're like,
So
what did
that's
you say?
actually why the consultant that we were working with was wanting us to use a specific agency, because they had like a back avenue to get the home study
Because the
copy
consultant was not a licensed agency, so they couldn't receive the home study directly.
Did you guys feel like at this time, like maybe we should?
Yes,
Yes,
so
this is like the first kind
This
of
is
like
going to be
red
us
flag,
laying
warning
out
flags
all of the
going
red
up.
flags that we
We're
experienced.
going to write a blog after this. So let's talk about the red flags so we can use that to help other families.
Yeah.
So number one, you started paying right away and you're not even done. That's a flag. Number two, they're not licensed and now they're kind of like telling you to do these like kind of.
They're saying you need to work with this home study agency because we can actually then get a physical copy of your home study.
Because they send it to an agency here in Georgia that we have a relationship with that will just pass it off to us. So
Okay.
it's a legal workaround.
Okay. And did you say that you were open to going out of the state?
Yeah, we were, I would say mostly hoping to work with an agency or adoption lawyer outside of the state of Colorado
We knew
because
about
we knew the
Colorado.
laws
We-
were.
yeah, we were
Okay,
hoping
you
it
need to be
wasn't
waiting.
gonna-
Oh, okay, perfect. I'm going to get a call from Colorado after this one.
Okay, so other red flags.
Yeah, so we, once we finally get signed on with them, we start seeing a really high volume of cases, which to us at that point felt encouraging because we were just so eager to like begin the process and start feeling like our opportunities were opening, our doors were opening.
Okay, and you guys were presented like 30 or something, right? You didn't match, but like there was like a lot of opportunity, like really fast.
So we went
Looked up
back
these
and
numbers
checked.
last night.
Okay,
Yeah. So we
be
ended up
accurate.
seeing about like over 40 cases. So we were with this consultant for about
4 months.
4 months. We saw over 40 cases and we presented on
13.
13 of them.
What does that mean?
So
40, you saw, like you got to choose if you wanted
so
to be.
the way
okay.
it worked was that the families that were working with this consultant, the consultant would send a write-up of what the situation was, what the what the case was, and then the prospective adoptive family would get to have the first yes. So you would read it and say, "Am I interested in this case?" If you're interested, you would then write a Dear Mom letter to try to communicate to the expectant mom, why we could be a good fit. And then you're presented to the expectant mom and she gets to choose. So she is the final yes, obviously. So one thing that we didn't understand at the time was that honestly, that we really weren't being presented to these expectant moms because you were being presented in the order of how long you'd been waiting or working with the consultant. And there were like over 150 families working with the consultant. So we ended up, praying over these cases every time, writing these really long Dear Mom letters, riding the roller coaster of getting our hopes up of like, maybe this is our baby, riding that wave.
Which was basically once a week.
Yeah, we were
13 and
pretty
4
much
months.
saying yes once a week.
I mean, people are going to be surprised that there were even 40 options out there. Do you think that was an accurate number? I mean, 40.
So I logged it all in a tracker because I'm like that
you tracked
person.
every single one.
I mean, that's
with
a
excruciating
lot
detail on every case,
that you had
cost,
to
location.
choose.
Yeah.
From.
Yeah.
But then you're saying if you even chose that, they didn't present.
Not necessarily.
And we didn't
We
find
didn't
that
know
out
that
till
up
the
front.
end.
Oh, okay, fun. Right.
So you want to
So,
talk
yeah.
to them?
Could you have said like, I'm done?
So we kind
ended
of
up getting
did.
there.
Oh, okay.
So of those, and here's where it kind of leads to, of those 40 cases, the average cost was about $65,000, which was also more than we were led to believe kind of in our onboarding. We were expecting like 40 to 50, maybe 55, 60 on the high end. The average case of all 40 of those was over 60,000. And
Some of them went up to
back
80.
and- the
Yes,
highest was 79.
I just heard that.
Yeah.
But it's only with consultants. The consulting presenting family was 82,000. I was talking to this lady who gives Help Us Adopt. She gives all these grants, and she said with the consultants, it's 82, can go up to 82 because of their fees.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, and that's not even including the fee we paid to
Yeah.
the consultant.
Or
and
our
the
home
study.
study
Like
fee.
this is just for the case
Oh
itself.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so of those
You're like, Patsy's got to go.
yeah. So of those 40, over half of them were from a specific agency in Utah. And those were the ones that we were seeing the costs get pretty exorbitant. And we were seeing all these cases come in and just getting that feeling that something felt off. Most of these birth mothers were not from Utah. They were traveling to Utah,
That's a whole
to
other
be
podcast.
housed out there and have all their expenses covered and all these things. And
Did
so
you
that-
Google that and look that up?
we
Or
did.
okay.
And we actually had some friends that had a successful placement with this same consultant. So at this point, we actually reached out to them and talked to them, and they actually said we had the exact same hesitations. We actually told the agency at one point we weren't interested in any of those cases from this agency in Utah, and so that kind of helped give us the confidence that okay, we're not the only ones who think this looks a little weird and off.
Yeah.
So that's when we actually reached out to the consultant, our contact there, and had a pretty frank call with them. And that's where we learned that, we weren't necessarily getting presented because they were going in order of your wait time. And we said, these cases just aren't really sitting right with us. We don't really think we're going to present on any of these Utah cases. And they said, that's fine. That's your prerogative, but that is
half of our volume.
Most of our volume. And so then it's the balancing act. And Shannon says this very well of, okay, are we going to do what's right for us and our family and have the birth story we want to share with our child, the adoption story? Or are we just desperate to have a child in our arms today?
That's so good.
That balancing act of, we made the decision that we wanted to do what felt right and what sat right with us.
Yeah. So ultimately, we kind of said to them, okay, we're going to bow out of all of these Utah cases. We don't have peace over these situations. And so then I started kind of going back to the drawing board of like, okay, now I'm feeling not as hopeful that this specific adoption consultant is going to lead us to our baby. So I randomly applied for a Facebook giveaway, Instagram Christmas giveaway for a contract with another consultant. That just, not that I had spent any time getting to know them, but I just had a feeling like Hail Mary, honestly, we got to get out of the situation. And we weren't in a financial situation where we wanted to spend another $5,000 to sign up with another consultant.
Right. Okay.
And so we ended up winning that giveaway, which was just really felt like a God thing. And we were just like, wow, then maybe this is where our baby's supposed to come from. And we overall had a much different and better experience with the second group that we worked with. But we were able to take all those lessons and red flags that we had learned from the first consultant and say, we're not going to put ourselves in these situations again, or we're going to try not to, and we're going to ask harder questions.
I'm surprised you didn't say we're not going to use a consultant.
I think we just didn't know another avenue that we could.
Help.
Because I know.
Yes,
I think we just felt so discouraged by working with a local agency in Colorado. Maybe if we were still living in Texas, we would have said, okay, we got to switch gears and try to go that route. Since then, I've had some friends that have used a national agency and had positive experiences with that. I just, for some reason, I had this one track mind that
was the route.
You just needed help.
Yeah.
And they were
free. You want it.
This one
Yes,
was.
this one was.
Yeah.
They were both Christian organizations.
And I just want to say, beware. It doesn't mean what you think it means necessarily.
Yes.
Well, everybody preys on desperation, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing that...
Which I think that's why you guys being in the RV caused you to be able to go, wait a second, do we want a baby in our arms, or do we want to do the right thing and get the baby in our arms, right?
Yeah.
That's a really hard thing to say,
Yes.
but that time that you had probably led you to be able to be strong enough to,
For sure.
wait.
Yeah.
Okay, so you win it. You're a winner. You're a new consultant.
Yes.
There was over 200 entrants, I think they said.
Wow.
And that was the first time we both just felt like God had opened a door for us in this process. It felt like everything up until that, we were just banging down doors, brute force. And that was the first time that we felt like a path was opened that we had to walk down.
Which was really encouraging. And I also think just a gift from God, because we needed that bit of encouragement after feeling so defeated on our first experience working with the first consultant.
So
So we started working with them.
Okay, so you've been presented 40. You've said yes to 13. You have no match.
Nope.
No match. So then we start working with the second consultant. They have a much smaller pool of waiting families. They have a much stronger kind of network or community of support for waiting families.
We knew a lot of questions to ask this time around, and they guaranteed us that every time you say yes, your profile is being shown.
Okay.
We're not playing games with any of our waiting families. That was good to hear.
We ended up, I think, matching fairly quickly.
Within 2 months.
Yeah, within 2 months, we were matched with a set of twin boys.
Twin boys.
Which we were absolutely thrilled about. It was so fun. The consultant had called and shared the news with me while Nick was at work, and then I got to go out and buy 2 little pairs of booties and set them on the kitchen table and like do all the things that I thought going through the adoption journey that I wasn't going to get to do. And so we were just like absolutely thrilled about the idea.
Did you tell your whole
of
family?
Twins. We told everyone, April.
We did.
Yes, which was really sweet to like kind of see this like outpouring of love and support and just cheering us on, which was really great. But yeah,
it was a longer match. It was an almost 4-month expected match.
Okay. Did you meet her?
No. So
didn't
that
meet her.
was something that from the get-go the agency had, so the agency was out of Florida.
Birth mom was in Florida.
The social workers, they had this expectant mom had worked with the agency previously. She had a successful placement
Okay.
for a baby the year before.
Okay.
And
Did you ask why is she not placing twins with the
We did.
biological? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they said she just didn't have a great sense or relationship with that family post placement.
Okay.
And just wasn't sure. Yeah.
And so
We spoke to her on the phone.
Okay.
no, we
No, we
didn't. We talked to the social worker on the phone,
You're
but
right. You're right.
So for 4 months, no, like
Wait. Yeah.
I know.
We did text with her. We got her
Okay.
phone number and
Okay.
texted with
Yes.
her. The birth mom was in Tampa. The agency was in Jacksonville. So about 3 hours apart.
Okay.
But they had worked with her on a successful placement the year before.
Right.
And we'll never forget these words the
Yeah.
social worker shared with us because she specifically said, I would never guarantee a family that any placement is a sure thing. But this is as close to a sure thing as I would ever tell a family.
Because they had worked with
Yeah.
her and they
Gives you
had
chills.
had a relationship, and that really, I mean, being our first time going through the adoption journey, that like gave us, we clung to that.
Yeah.
Anytime
was.
I'd have nerves of like, do you think this is going okay? Like, is it weird that we haven't like got
Yes,
to meet her in person?
right.
And we would just say,
Why
"Well,
were they
remember."
not letting you talk to her? Be
They said she didn't want to.
And they just said
She
that
wasn't
that was
interested.
like her call, and the expectant mom was driving, like how much contact she wanted, and that it was normal sometimes for them to kind of want to
Okay.
disassociate
Okay.
from the adoptive family and just keep kind of trucking along.
the
through end of
agency
the
told you this or the
Yeah.
consult? Okay.
The agency.
Yeah, so at this point, we're not really working with the consultant anymore because they've kind of passed you on
Passed
to the
you on to the
agency that's
agency,
working
okay.
with the
Yeah.
birth mother. So.
okay. So she doesn't want to meet you, but were you getting like updates of her going to the hospital? Yes.
Yeah. So towards the end, this is a twin pregnancy, more high risk. We
Mm-hmm.
were expecting that she would probably, be induced early at 37
Mm-hmm.
weeks. That's typical with twins. So towards like I would say the last month and a half or two, we were getting weekly updates or biweekly updates that she was going into the hospital. We were getting updates about how much the babies were weighing,
From
how
who?
they were looking.
The hospital or
From the social worker,
Were you seeing it?
they at one point we saw an ultrasound photo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Of the twins?
Yep.
Of the
And this was
twins.
coming from the birth mom through the social worker to us. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And when we signed the contract with this agency, we did sign the clearance, and I forget what the document was called, but that we would
Yes.
have access to the medical records of
Yep.
the
So did you ever
expectant mom.
call the doctor and say, hey,
So
no.
we didn't.
Because you
look-
could have. That piece of paper
So
allows you.
Good to know.
We know
Okay.
by personal
Yeah.
We
experience.
know by experience.
We've
and-
done it.
Yeah.
But she didn't sign it. We thought, in our case, she didn't sign it. We thought she did. We called, and it was, it was
Yeah.
weird. But so we were told that she had, and then
yeah.
it's weird when you call and you're like, hey, I'd like this information, and they're like, she didn't sign any of the paperwork, and we're like, what? Just
Oh,
click.
gosh.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, but in this case, if you had seen it, and we know now to ask for that piece of paper, then you could have said, hey, we're adoptive family. She signed this
Yeah.
paper. What was that last, update about? Like, how's the babies?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, you
think
guys probably
because
don't
we
know
were
that.
receiving some updates, we felt like,
That was
okay,
enough.
like we're getting
Right,
information.
right.
And I think just being first timers through this whole journey, we didn't know to ask for more.
Right.
We didn't know to ask or press on those hard questions or topics. And so, we finally get the call that expectant mom is being scheduled for an induction. Social worker says you can book your flights to Florida. Come, pick up these babies.
Did you guys buy stuff yet?
Oh,
Were
we
you
had
buy-
everything.
Two of everything.
We had so many gracious friends and family that had sent so many sets of 2. We had 2 car seats,
Double stroller.
we had
2
double of so
cribs.
many things.
Yeah, everything.
That would be
and-
fun, right? I mean, you're probably
Oh,
thinking
we were
like this is
pumped
Yeah.
for
Oh
twins.
my
Yeah.
gosh.
We thought it was
it's
just
like a dream
We
come
thought
true.
it was,
Yes.
yeah, the answer
Yeah.
to our prayers.
And so.
So you're going
yeah.
to travel to
So-
Florida?
Yep. So we're going to travel to Florida.
We're at the airport. We're walking through the airport with our 2 empty car seats.
Okay, we had another family come on and say this too. Here's my suggestion. Maybe just buy them when you get there.
Yeah.
Because also, it's not even about like, are you going to bring the babies home? People in the airport are watching you too walk around with an empty stroller, and there's no
covers
children.
over 'em.
Oh, okay.
But yes.
We actually we turned one over to put it through the conveyor belt at TSA, and like somebody hadn't seen us take a baby out, and they were like,
my
"Whoa, whoa." It's like, no, it's empty. It's empty.
Yes.
Okay, so you have everything. You're traveling with all the stuff, and
Yeah.
you're gonna. What's the plan? You're gonna get off the plane and go directly to the hospital.
Yeah, pretty much. It was like a 2 p.m. scheduled induction or something like that. So we had a morning flight.
Looking back at this, are you like, oh my goodness?
Yes.
Yeah,
So
and
many
somebody
things.
also told us like nobody gets induced at 2 p.m. Like they're always in the morning. And it's like
Right.
looking back at that, we're like,
Just things you
And
know.
I just want to say you are so delightful, both of you, highly intelligent people. You both have like amazing jobs. I just want to say that because sometimes when you listen, you think like, how could this trick somebody? And we felt like that too. Like I'm like really good at discernment, and I have been fooled many a time. And so the process that you go through, if you're thinking like, how does this happen? It does sometimes. And like, I'm sure you guys are like looking back at like, oh my goodness, but it happens.
And I think you're just so excited about this opportunity and feel like if this woman chose us to be the parents of this baby, like we are just all in. We were just felt so honored, and that this was, I mean,
answered prayers.
And ordained, and it just felt like this is happening, and we just were wanting to live in that space, I think, instead of letting fear take over and letting all of the doubts creep in, because we just had experienced so much loss through our infertility and our journey to grow our family already, that we were, I think, just wanting to be hopeful.
Yeah. And you hear about all of the stories of fraud and, you know, the schemes online and stuff, and we were very aware that most of those are twin cases, right? Where these women are preying upon vulnerable families, but seems like they're always happening on social media or the internet. And like, we're working with an agency and a consultant. And trusting that this is a legitimate process and these birth moms are vetted and all those things. So
if I would have been coaching you, I would have been like, I need to call that agency. I need to talk to her and I need to find out. Because I really do believe as adoptive parents, you need to push to meet. Whether she's like, I want to close this, it doesn't matter. There's got to be some sort of connection so that you see everything, right? And there's some, you don't have to be best friends. You don't have to have an open adoption, but there's some sort of connection. And just to kind of be hoping, you know, it's a hard place to be in. And I know everybody listening is like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? What's going to happen next?
I don't even know if we've said what the answer
Okay,
is.
so you take that part.
Okay, yeah. So, gosh, we're literally in line to board. You know, it's Southwest. There's 3 boarding groups. I think we're probably end of boarding group B, and they're calling boarding group B. And my phone rings, and it's the social worker. And she was driving from Jacksonville to Tampa to pick up the mom to take her to the hospital that morning. And she just says, I can't find her. She's not in her apartment. I've called all the hospitals. She's not at the hospital. She's not answering her phone. I don't think you guys should get on the plane. And Shannon's, I think I don't know if I was on speakerphone or not, but Shannon just collapses. It was like, you know, every nightmare come true in a public place at the airport. And
our stuff's like already on the plane too. So we're like,
we checked our bags. You know, we just have the stroller and
so
we were there.
Our bags flew. Our bags flew, and we did not.
Never forget the gate we were at, the gate number. I never want to
have the car seats.
Oh,
and
we have the stroller and the car seats, and the gate agent was phenomenal, and like she could tell something bad was happening, and refunded our tickets, and we're like, you guys just go get out of here. Like, we'll take care of the bags, and they ended up pulling the bags off the plane. I had to come back a day or two later and pick them up, but that walk out of the airport was the worst. Talk about the comments on the way in. You know, on the way out, we're on the elevator with our 2 empty car seats, and some old woman makes a joke. Oh, your car seats are empty. You're missing the babies. And it's like, yeah, we know.
Good thing you're an old woman.
We know. And just heads down, trying to get out of there as quick as we can.
And I think we were just still in such shock. Like, we were still like, okay, she's not found right now.
But maybe they'll find her.
Yes.
Maybe there's hope. Like, we just were really in a state of like uncertainty, and we were like, is this falling apart? Is this all crumbling? Or is she just scared and not ready to go through placement again, and she just needs to take a beat? And I think, when did we get the call from the social worker about trying to find her at the hospitals?
That was that same day.
So, yeah, this was the other crazy part. So the social worker can't find the expectant mom at her apartment. So then she starts calling the hospitals, the one that she was supposed to be induced at, like, hey, has this woman checked in? I'm social worker. I'm going to be assisting with this process. No record of her. The hospital that she was supposed to be induced at has no record of her.
Not just that day, but period.
Ever. So that she's been saying she's going in for these checkups for monitoring of the twins, no record of her.
Had the social worker actually met her?
Yes.
Yes, from the previous placement.
And that's true. That part of the story is true.
That part is
okay.
true. She did place.
Yes.
So then, so many questions just spinning around
then the
our
social
heads.
worker calls all the other hospitals in that area. Still no record of this woman being a patient. And so then it starts really crumbling quickly. And I think that
You're invested emotionally, but you've given money as well, right?
Oh,
Significant.
Yeah.
How much money?
I think the total for this one was about 65.
You've given
you've
that?
already paid that?
You paid that?
Yes. Final check.
We had written our final check
pass that.
the week before.
Okay, so people right now are pausing this because they need to have a long cry. I can already feel it because I want to pause this and have a long cry. Like, this is like, it's hard to explain to people that not only is this an emotional loss, like the pieces are all coming together, it's crumbling, as you said, but $65,000.
And that's just to this agency.
Yeah.
Not including consultant, home study, clearances, all that
we're
other stuff.
in big time.
You're in it.
And and 25,000 of that was for birth mother expenses. So then, of course, that's immediately where our mind's going is like,
What did she
where's
do
the
with that money?
accountability here? What did she do with this money? Where did that go? And we.
So I think the agency very quickly within the next day or two realized, okay, this is fishy. And so then they start like digging into it more themselves and call us and basically say, we have reason to believe we think this is a case of an adoption fraud. We're going to go ahead and file a police report and provide over all of the information to the police so that they can try to locate this woman. And so
What is your consultant saying?
the consultant actually is pretty far removed at this point, but we do call them and say, like, this is falling apart. We're in this situation, and
They say failed adoptions happen.
and I think that was a really hard point for us because we went into our adoption journey realizing that that the expectant mom or birth mom, has every right to change her mind, and that is a part of adoption. We weren't expecting for it to all be a scam.
Yeah.
So I know I asked this, but
I think they are different.
Did
They are
the
different.
social worker meet after? Like, so yes, I know the social
Have
worker.
they ever connected after this
Like,
placement?
did the social
other
worker
placement?
see her pregnant? Did we know?
She
Like,
claims she did. So right before the initial case was sent out and we were matched, she said she went down to Tampa. She met with her in person. They had coffee or breakfast together.
Yeah.
And we were like, was she pregnant? She's like, I could have sworn she was. She looked pregnant.
Okay.
So that was 4 months before. So she was 4 or 5 months
I know,
pregnant.
but it's twins and second
Right.
pregnancy.
You would
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but never since then. Never after that point did she ever see
so it was like
her
one
in
time.
person.
So were you losing faith in this person that you're talking to? Like, were you questioning her story at the same time? Okay.
Oh, yes. And, through all of our adoption training, through our home study process, we learned the importance of counseling for the placing mother and like how important it is to walk with them. And I think that's something that the Christian adoption consultants really tout as like, we, believe in the health of the mental health of the birth mother, and we want to walk with them and provide them support and counseling and all these things. And so we had felt good through the process that even though this adoption case was really expensive, hopefully this means that then the birth mother is getting wonderful support.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's hopefully what our money is going to.
She's got a great place to live. She's got everything she needs.
Yes. And so I think that was really hard for us to then realize, like, oh, she hasn't been receiving counseling. Oh, you've been text messaging her, but you haven't seen her in person or like been meeting with her through this. The other piece that we come to find out is that, we had received a text message of the ultrasound photo from the social worker. Well, it turns out, so this is all falling apart, and we say, okay, well, how did you guys verify the pregnancy? Like, can we get a copy of whatever that was from the doctor or the ultrasound that she went to, like an actual report? And they didn't have any of that. They had just taken the ultrasound photo that the expectant mom had text messaged them. And I mean, guys, it is so easy to Google, like,
That was their proof
fake
of pregnancy?
ultrasound. Yes. And that was one of those things that if we had you guys counseling us, we would have known to like ask for more verification. But I think we were in the beginning, we're just so blinded by finally being chosen after having not been chosen for
And it
so many
at least
cases.
had her name on it. Like the picture did have her name on it.
I
so,
mean,
like,
you can
edit
You could buy
PDF,
that on
right?
the internet.
know.
Sure, it's
That's
not
why
hard, but-
this piece of paper is so important that they release to you, that you know, and that they actually have, doctors' consent and all these things, because we're living in a time where scamming is happening more and more, especially with social media, right? It's hard to kind of track that. Or people that are saying, I'm going to do my own adoption. I don't need a consultant. I don't need anybody. And then they kind of fall into that as well because they don't know these things. But the agency should know, right? They should know the steps, the flags.
That was our thought the whole time.
And that was like, at this point, we are surprisingly not that upset with the birth mother or the woman. I don't even know if we can call her a birth mother.
Because she kept,
Well, but
there was no baby.
Well, we really don't believe
she
they were
wasn't
twins.
expectant.
I think
We
she's
really
just
don't
a
know.
woman. A woman.
To this day, we have no idea
Yeah.
if those babies exist or not.
And did they get her? Like when they were like, we're going to do this, file this suit.
No, turns out they filed the case in like the wrong
They
county.
filed it in Jacksonville where the agency was, but it needed to be in Tampa where she lived.
Yeah, you're like,
I can be honest.
Honestly, we reached out to the sheriff's department and never heard back.
Yeah.
Like they said they
I'd
were
be like
transferring the
Googling
case.
every person's name. Like, did you have her name? Like, I'd be
We
like,
did.
Did you find her?
Nope.
You never found her like on Facebook?
We found her
or
on
anything?
Facebook, I think, but
oh my gosh.
there wasn't much there.
Okay, so
But we
could-
we surprisingly have a good amount of not peace, but like we're like, okay, this woman might have been we don't know what her situation was. We don't know who was influencing her, who was in her sphere of influence. Where our frustration and like the pit in our stomach came from was the lack of due diligence from the agency and the adoption lawyers that were involved in running this agency. And like, this was what we were paying them so much money for, was for them to make sure that this was buttoned up and ethical on both sides of the house. And
listen, in my opinion, I agree with you.
Yeah.
When you say, if she decided to parent the twins, that's always a risk. Always.
Yes.
No agency can tell you black and white what's going to happen. But you should be able to avoid a scam.
Yep.
You should be able to pay.
Well, especially if you've
and
already written a check
trust,
for 65
and
grand.
it shouldn't be a scam. And my favorite part about your story, I've never had anybody write in and
part.
have this happen. But Nick, you were like, not on my watch. This is not going down like this. Tell us what you did.
Yeah. So there's a lot of times in the adoption process where you feel like you have no say or weight behind you because you just feel so vulnerable. And we were told many times when we would try to question things, there's 100 other waiting families right behind you that will be comfortable with this, right?
yeah.
And so you get into those situations a lot, and we're both business people, very technical and logical. We've looked at a lot of contracts in our days, but felt like we couldn't do that throughout this process because we were just kind of bulldozed.
And you don't want to be moved to the bottom.
Yeah, you don't want to get
You
on
know,
their bad side
right.
or ruffle any feathers. So
Such a unique relationship.
but at this point, we felt like we had legitimate grounds to be angry and take some action. So this agency offered to put us on their historic drop list, be on their short list for any last minute crisis pregnancies that happen and all that. And we said, okay, that's great. Put us on the list. But, we're having our own conversations and we're pretty confident we have no desire to work with this agency anymore.
Our trust is just so broken at
So
this
broken.
point. We're like, we don't want to work with you guys, even if you're going to help, say you're going to get us a match quickly.
Yeah. Right. So we actually, we waited a little bit. We slow played it. We took a few months off of just not presenting and just taking our own time until we decided we were ready again to start presenting on cases. And this was a huge dialogue between us because we were already so financially invested
Right.
in this specific agency, because now we've paid this agency and a portion of our funds would roll over into a future
Okay,
match.
what was that
with,
portion? What did they
I
tell
want to
you?
say it was 10 or 15,000.
Yeah,
Oh my
it
gosh.
was
Out of
like the agency fee.
$65,000.
Well, 25 went to the birth
Yeah.
mom, and that was gone.
Yeah.
So
There was no recovery in that.
I feel like I need to be quick.
yeah.
Take this in and just be like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness.
So then we're having the dialogue of like, okay, do we want to save $10,000 or $15,000 and have that roll over, but honestly not know how long that's going to take for them to find us a match? Or do we just kind of say, suck it up? Like,
Our
we're going to take the
losses.
financial risk again and be open to working with a new agency. And we decided we were okay with that. Like, we're very blessed, and we were fortunate to kind of like have the means to be able to make that decision. But also in the back of our mind, I think we knew if we have a match through a different agency, like, we're going to get that money back from them. Like, we're going to go after that.
Yeah. So
yeah,
we
but
needed-
I would tell you, if you came to me at this time and I would be like, I don't know how you're going to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why this is such an important episode for people to listen to, because you do have rights.
Yeah. So when we were like still, I would say in the 2 or 3 months we took off grieving the loss of these twins that we had, envisioned growing our family with.
Did you get rid of the stuff?
We got rid of like
One of everything.
one of everything. My mom came up and helped like pack up the nursery and all the things, which was so kind. But so I am like, we literally reach out to like every adoption lawyer in the state of Florida at this time. I'm doing my research and due diligence and finding out who will take our case. And I just want to have it in my back pocket. At this point, we are too emotionally like charged to like act rationally, but I just wanted to know that we would have somebody that would be willing to take the case. And it was so incredible, like how often we'd get on the phone and the adoption lawyers would right away say, like, this is absolutely not right. Like, I'm so sorry that you're in this situation. Like,
And you were using her name and people knew her name.
Yeah.
yes.
And they would tell, sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead.
And so a lot of people said, like, we won't touch her within like with a whatever that saying is,
10-foot pole.
10-foot
Yeah.
pole.
like not go after her, or like
Correct.
not.
Because
Oh,
they're kind
really?
of like,
But
they're
they
Yeah,
kind of
it's
also-
a community,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
But they
they were, like-
also knew that she kind of didn't have
had
a great name.
reputation.
Yes.
And
Okay.
she had this agency, and the woman who was the attorney at the agency, they had prior run-ins where she was actually disbarred temporarily for a certain period of time.
But we don't know this all until afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We find this all out as we're
Okay,
digging
we
into
were in
this.
the same spot too. We were
Yeah.
like, oh, we really should have looked that up, but you don't think to do that.
Yeah. So we ended up calling, we had
Probably 15.
Yeah, 15 different
different
lawyers
attorneys.
telling our story, and ended up finding, I think there were like
One or two.
Yeah, a couple that would be willing to take our case.
Yeah, to do something. And some of them said, you're actually probably better off legally going after the birth mother expenses versus going after the agency. And I don't know. But long story short, we had a couple that were interested and said, like, we know who that is. This is not right. And
We wanna help you.
you should be, there should be recompense here.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we knew we had that in our back pocket. And obviously we'll talk about our successful match
Yes.
and our child now.
But tell everybody, because we want to get to that, because everyone's like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness,
Yeah.
they get a
Yeah.
baby. But like, tell everybody what the outcome was.
Yeah. So once we were successfully matched and we were just had our baby in our arms and we felt so
Wait a second.
happy
Wait a
and
second.
comfortable,
We
Wait.
wait until baby's
we
home.
waited until after that to do this.
Basically,
Through this agency though?
Mhm.
No. We end up
Different
placing
agency.
through
Okay.
a
Different
Yeah,
agency,
yes.
but you're not like going after her yet. You're
Not
just
yet.
like getting
We're
it lined
getting our
up.
ducks in a
but
row,
you
getting
get
it lined
matched.
up.
Okay, so let's skip to that. So you guys get matched with another agency, and what was that like?
So we're skipping ahead to that now?
Yeah, because,
Yeah,
okay.
because
we'll-
you didn't
we'll
go
go
after
back,
them
right?
until
Yeah.
after,
Yes,
right?
correct.
We
Okay.
paused and we were like, I didn't want to get into a fight that was still so like charged emotionally. Like I just didn't feel like, or we didn't feel like we were in a headspace to, like, when you desire something so badly, you start acting crazy sometimes. Like, you know what I mean? You can make not the
No,
best
I never
decisions.
act crazy, so I don't.
And so we wanted to be able to come from a place of like, this isn't about a baby anymore. This is about like,
We're not about vengeance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This-
It's about doing what's right.
yeah. So anyways, we took a couple months off from presenting, grieved the loss of these twins. We were still, I would say, very emotionally fragile, but we were so longing to grow our family. And so we went back to the second adoption consultant that we had the placement through for the twins. And we decided like we're ready to start seeing more cases. And
Through different agencies.
through a different agency. We said we're not going to work with the one that
Yes.
we had all this go down with. And yeah, I don't know, maybe we presented on one or 2 before our son's case came
To the
through.
hiking story.
Oh yeah. So so we're grieving the loss of the twins and just deciding when to get back out there and start presenting. And I have just honestly had a really rough week emotionally. I was just really feeling low and frustrated by the whole thing, and just kind of like, God, like this felt like you were opening this door for us and that these were our babies, and then this is all falling apart. And I thought you were in this. Like, God, where are you in this? And we decided to hike a 14er here in Colorado, so a 14,000-foot mountain. We're doing Mount Bierstadt. So we had to wake up real early in the middle of, not the middle of the night, but real early to drive out to the mountain to start hiking. And I remember like praying on my drive out there, like, God, just like show up for me on this hike. Like I am in such a terrible like mood, honestly. And I just like need to see you in your goodness out in nature, and I need to just like feel your presence, and just like, God, like I need you, show up. That was like I was asking boldly, like, show up for me. I need this. And so we hiked the 14er, and we're like coming up to the top of the mountain, ascending, and
Took us 30 minutes.
no, it didn't. Nick is actually a little bit ahead of me because I was just going slow as we were
I like
getting
sprinting the end.
Yeah, I go slower on the boulders as we get to the top. But up at the top there, so we're Catholic, and there was a Catholic priest that had led a group of youth kids on this hike, and he was like putting on his garments and about to say mass at the top of this mountain. And as Catholics, we believe that like as the Eucharist, that it is like fully the body and blood of Jesus. And so like my prayer going back to the car was like, God, show up for me. And literally we get to the mountain top, and the priest is like, do you guys want to join us for mass? And like to me, that just was such an answered prayer of like God physically showing up for me at the top of this mountain. Like I see you, Shannon. Like you're not alone in this. Like I'm going to be here for you and in this. And it just felt like I really needed like a beacon of hope, or just like to feel him in our story. Cause I kind of felt like we had been abandoned at the Southwest Gate.
There's the name of your book. I'm not kidding.
There's what?
Abandoned at the Southwest Gate.
Guess what the gate number was?
What? Twins.
66.
Oh,
I know. Isn't that terrible?
I wouldn't
Yeah.
forget that
Yeah.
either. Yeah.
Okay, don't put that in the book.
I know.
Or put that in the title.
But yeah, so it was just like we really like I felt like we could just like sigh, like exhale, like, okay, God, you're like in this with us again. And so we come back down the mountain, and the way we were receiving cases from the consultant is like via email. They would send the situation, get down to the bottom of the mountain.
Oh my gosh.
We check our phones, we get service again, and we have a case in our inbox. And we sit on it, pray on it over the weekend, and ultimately decide like we felt comfortable moving forward with that one. And that's the one that those birth
And he
parents
was
chose
baby
us.
boy.
Baby boy.
What'd you
Yes.
name him?
Chase.
Chase.
So this
Michael.
was early August or middle of August. Expected due date was November. So it was still a pretty long match, like a 3 or 4 month match. And we actually thought we really didn't want a long match again, given the first experience. But like I said, we just prayed about it, felt comfortable with it.
You did meet her?
We spoke to her on the phone.
Okay.
And the birth father. They were together.
Okay.
And
We were planning to meet them in person.
yeah, and then Chase was born 7 weeks early.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, we were planning to go out there in September and meet them. And then we get a call one Friday morning that son was born. They want you out here.
Where was it? Florida?
Wichita, Kansas.
Oh, Kansas.
This was
Okay.
a Kansas agency.
Yeah.
We were actually apart when he was born. I was back in Austin visiting my family and going to go to an A&M football game that Saturday. So I get a call, probably 5 or 6 a.m. Actually, I've been getting calls since 2 a.m. I finally answered my phone at about 6 in the morning. And it was the social worker for the agency in Kansas. She said, your son was born at 2 a.m.
Oh my goodness.
Birth mother and father are asking how soon you can be here.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was just such a breath of fresh air and relief. Like they wanted us there.
Yeah. What year is this?
This is 2023.
Okay.
Yep. So Shannon's still back home in Denver. I'm in Texas. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, like my mom and dad are there. My sister's staying over at the house that night. So she's there. And I don't want to tell anybody. We actually didn't tell anybody about this match.
Yeah.
This time
We've
around.
done that
Yeah.
before. Because
Yeah.
after you've told,
Oh, yes.
and then you have to go through the grief with every
Yes.
person that you're telling. It didn't work. So you're like,
So we
not
kept this
telling
one
anybody.
very private. So I'm calling Shannon. I think I called Shannon 17 times in the next hour. She doesn't answer. I call our next door neighbor, ask her to go please ring the doorbell and bang on our door to wake up my wife. And I was like, I promise it's good news. Like, just tell her to call me and she'll be okay. So 5 minutes later, I get a call from Shannon and get to tell her our son was born.
Yeah.
And then a little bit later, you get...
Yes. So, okay. So this is also a crazy week. So this is happening on a Friday. So, okay. Well, let's finish the...
No, I want to go back to the end. Because I want people to listen to it to the very end.
So you want to wait on that part?
I want you to tell what happened and how you got twins.
Oh, okay. So this is all happening on a Friday, and 1 week before that, so after the twin match fell through back in the summer, I felt like we were kicked back to start, right? And so we were like, okay, well, maybe we'll try, we'll go back to the doctor and see if we want to pursue some fertility stuff, just to feel like we're back in the game a little bit. And so I was actually scheduled to have a fertility surgery to remove some endometriosis. So that was going to happen on a Friday.
The week before our son was born.
So at this point, we know we're matched, but we're holding that so loosely because of our experience and just really not getting our hopes up yet. So we're going to have this fertility surgery on a Friday. We go in the day before for my pre-op blood work and everything. And the nurse comes back in and she says, "You're not having surgery tomorrow, Shannon." Nick's with me and she says, "You're pregnant." So we were in complete shock, to be honest, and also holding that pregnancy very, very loosely because we had experienced losses. And so we're kind of like, okay, wow, this is incredible. We're so thankful and grateful for the opportunity to carry this pregnancy. But just we took a beat. We'll get excited when we hear a heartbeat and we start making it through some milestones. So this happens 1 week before. And then the next Friday, we get the call that Chase had been born. Birth parents asking us to get to Wichita as soon as we can. We show up to the hospital.
I'm coming from Austin. She's coming from Denver.
Yeah.
And we show up within 10 minutes of each other. We both drive. So that was amazing. We get there around 5 p.m.
And it was really sweet too. I feel like God just honored the broken parts in our hearts through this. But I was so nervous about being in the hospital waiting for those papers to be signed. And we knew walking into the hospital that they had signed the papers.
Oh, yeah.
So in Wichita, they can sign after 12 hours. And I think,
12 hours.
Really,
wow.
Yes. Yeah. And so we walked into the hospital room to spend time with them. And the sweet woman, she just wanted to hold those papers up. They had known that we had experienced a failed match.
Okay.
So back when they were choosing us, the social worker had told them this family has experienced a really hard story. If you're not 100% sure, let's pick a different family. Yeah. So I think it was really sweet when we were walking into the hospital room. She was waving the papers look, I signed it. I did it. You don't have to worry. I did it.
That's
she
so
was just
sweet.
really excited for us, and I think just wanting to heal our hearts that
that's so amazing.
had been broken by the failed match.
And your pregnancy took...
Yes.
And so you have 2 children.
Yes.
Yeah. So Chase was born 7 weeks early. So he was in the NICU for about 3.5 weeks.
Okay.
So we spent almost a month in Wichita. And it was just so surreal because we were there for so long. We did the first ultrasound in Wichita.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Did you have Patsy?
No, we were staying at the Ronald McDonald House. Yeah, they put us up at the Ronald McDonald House, which was awesome. But we stepped away one morning and went and found an OB-GYN there and did the ultrasound and heard the heartbeat.
Oh my gosh.
Basically we're caring for our son in the NICU all day, every day. And then also had this just surreal morning where we had another life.
Oh my goodness. And God gave you guys like twins. Or how far apart are they?
So they're 7.5 months apart. Yes. And it's just so sweet to see the way God has redeemed it, because we were so pumped for twins, as I had said. And then that was a really devastating moment when we felt like we weren't going to get twins. But now God redeemed it, and we feel like we got our twins. So they actually could be in the same school grade. So Chase was born in September, and then our daughter Audrey was born in May. So they are going to be raised kind of like twins.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and they're so
I just love the story
fun.
so much. Okay, but the best part of the story, well, that is the best part of the story. But second best part of the story is that
We got some money.
you got...
Yes.
So after Chase was born, that's when we decided, okay, we're gonna do this. We have our happy ending. We're over the moon. We know confidently now we are not going to go back and work with this Florida agency again. Right. Even if adoption is still part of our life again at some point, it's not going to be with them. Yeah. So we kind of re-engaged with some of those attorneys, and we didn't do anything really litigious at this point. my first step was I called the agency. I talked to the attorney there who was the head of the agency and basically told her, we've talked to attorneys. We feel like we have a case against what happened here.
Yeah.
That you guys were negligent in so many ways, in just proof of pregnancy and walking with this mother and how they distributed money to her. Like we were told she was going to have a prepaid debit card. And it turns out like 95% of the money was given to her via Cash App or Zelle or Venmo with no receipts, things like that. So we basically said, we can resolve this between the two of us, or we can go a different route. She said we can resolve it between the two of us. We agreed that we started a little higher. She started way lower. We came and basically agreed that she would repay us $25,000 of the money we had given her. She was going to do it over like 2 or 3 months and do it in installments, but ultimately they did. We got $25,000 back.
Good for you
Good
guys.
about that.
Wow.
And
Yes.
we put that behind us.
All right. This was the best. Wasn't the story so like emotional? We need a nap. This was amazing.
You need a nap. I need to go like work out, like you were saying.
I
Like
know.
we got to do
Yeah.
the active thing.
Yes, right.
I just
endorphins.
love that you guys wrote in and that you guys are so willing to tell your story. And it's such a beautiful story of God's redemption and how much He was working out the plan and He had to go through so much. And also, I want to encourage you, if you're listening to this and you have questions, maybe you're right in that spot where like there's some red flags and you're feeling a little bit like, I think that this isn't right. Call us. Like we want to help you. We will not charge you. We want to answer these questions and we want to find out what is going on for you because we don't want you to lose $65,000. If you're also in a place where you're like, we lost this money, there are attorneys that will help you.
Yeah.
And you might not get the full amount back, but didn't you feel great that you didn't lose the whole thing?
Absolutely.
I mean,
And that was the number that we had reached as like, if we can get this amount, we can walk away and have like peace. I didn't want to get in a legal battle. I didn't want to
No.
go through
Right.
that emotionally. I wanted to.
because it wasn't right. It was a
we
scam
knew-
situation.
And we also knew, given her history, she didn't want the reputational risk
Right.
either. So we were confident there was something we could
Yeah.
come to.
Nick and Shannon, thank you so much. I'm going to be posting pictures of their family. It's such a miracle. And they did get their twins. And
Yes.
you applied on our season that we're doing twin stories.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so amazing. Thank you so much. I hope you guys will come back and talk to us more. And maybe you can even help other couples.
We hope so.
All right. Take care. Thank you, Noah, for joining
Yeah.
us.
Yes, thank you. Noah.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
We'll see you guys next episode.
Wow. What an amazing story. I just can't even imagine. If you have questions about your adoption, please reach out to us at adoptionnowpodcast.com for coaching help, or you can join our Patreon page for support in the community. If you joined us on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time on Adoption Now, telling your adoption story.
The Adoption Now podcast has been telling adoption stories for nearly a decade, and now's the time to dig a little deeper. Looking for behind-the-scenes content, bonus time with the Fallon family, a network of hundreds of others in the adoption triad, and a chance to influence the content you hear on the show? Join the Patreon community at patreon.com/adoptionnow. Did you know that we also offer one-on-one coaching sessions? Let us help you navigate the early steps or support you post-placement by joining the interest list on our website. And did this episode make an impact on you? Don't forget to share some love. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Adoption Now. See you next episode.
At the end of the day, I choose you.